Hello everyone, welcome to Snap or Pass. My name is MJ, aka Res Snapper, and today we are looking at Kate Bishop, aka Hawkeye. She's a 2/3. On reveal, add 2 arrows to your hand. In this video, we're going to look at what those arrows do, what Hawkeye Kate Bishop does, and how good is she in general. Some awesome deck ideas for you, and the season pass in general. Is it worth getting? If you're new, please subscribe. And thanks again to Drew Berry for letting us carry the torch on this series. So, Hawkeye Kate Bishop, before we talk about the actual card and look at the arrows, let's just look at this season pass. In general, this is Young Avengers, one of my personal favourite comics that I've ever read, and I love the characters in it, so this is really cool for me. I think the season pass variant is pretty nice. The colours are really amazing, and it's very stark. I really like that. The Scarlet Witch is really cool. Scarlet Witch has just absolutely got an abundance of amazing variants in the game. This card back is pretty nice, and I really like this America Chavez as well. That is a season pass variant. So that's all of the paid stuff. So if you buy the season pass, that's the stuff that you get. Right, so yeah, in general, season pass looks good to me, guys. Let's talk about the card itself though. 2/3, and she's adding 2 random arrows to your hand. Here are the arrows. You got let me start that again. You've got the basic arrow. This is a 1/1. On reveal, if you play a card at this location next turn, plus 3 power. This is literally identical to the original Hawkeye. Then you've got the acid arrow. 1 - 2. On reveal, switch sides. So this is like a mini goblin, and I think it's absolutely incredible. The fact that it's 1 cost is so valuable. You'll be able to play it towards the end of the game, clog up a location, and that's just, I think that's going to be the one that you want, I think. Then you've got the Pim arrow, 1/1, ongoing, if your side of this location is full, plus 4 power. I do apologise, I misspoke, plus 3 power. I've got it in my head that it's Ant-Man. This is slightly less powerful than Ant-Man. Still seems good though. And finally, the grapple arrow is a 1/3, on reveal, after you play your next card, move it to this location. So grapple arrow is going to pull the next thing you play. So this is a brand new move ability. We've not seen this before. And with a 1/3 body, that seems really strong. So in general, I think Hawkeye here looks very strong. Adding 2 random arrows, there's not a bad one. I think that the 2 that you probably want, I would say, are acid arrow and grapple arrow. Grapple arrow is above value in stats. I mean, a few of these are really, but that is just a solid 1/3. And acid arrow, like I say, that clog element and the -2 is going to be really gross. And similar to other cards which add things to your hand, it just adds you extra utility and extra strategy, so it's really cool. Let's talk about this more in depth though, in the actual mechanics of Hawkeye Kate Bishop. So she adds 2 random arrows out of the 4 possible options. Like I say, you're going to be hoping for the acid arrow at the very least. Similar to Snow Guard, but less fragile. Snow Guard can of course be absolutely eliminated by Killmonger and Elektra, if you ever face against that. But Hawkeye Kate Bishop has this lovely 2/3 body, and so she's not going to die too much. And the generated cards that she makes are also easier to play than Snow Guard's as well. Snow Guard is creating 2-3 cost cards. You're not always getting them out, and you're also not always able to make the most of their ability. Hawkeyes, generally you're probably going to be playing them out. They're good. And as we've seen with similar cards, creating multiple cards can be very, very beneficial. This can be beneficial for the fact that it does give you more ability to react. You might have things like, what's the location where you move to it and you get plus 2 power. Maybe you've got the grappling arrow, and you didn't have any kind of way to make benefit of that location. Well, now you've got a huge benefit because you've got an above value card with a 1/3, and then you can get the extra 2 power on it as well. So it opens up these possibilities that weren't possible before you played Hawkeye Kate Bishop. So, and we've seen that with Agent Coulson as well, adding these random cards that you then need to think on your feet and change your strategy to adjust. I personally find that really fun. I love Shield Archetype. Shield Archetype is pretty much my favourite in the game. And Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, is basically a Shield card. So I think that's extremely cool. and I'm really excited for this. Now, the actual pros. The Acid Arrow is the cheapest clog in the game, if you exclude the cost of Kate Bishop. I mean, the actual cheapest is probably still White Widow, really. But yeah, the fact that she can create this 1 -2, that is so good. Like I said earlier, you can wait until the end of the game, until they've got like 3 cards in a location, and try and gamble it and fill that location up. It's going to be really good. I mean, they might know that you might be doing that, but if you can pull off that late game clog, it's just this extra amount of value that you're going to get out of her. Grapple Arrow is good value at 3 power with an ability. We've sort of covered that already. She's another cheap way to generate multiple cards like Snowguard, like Coulson. So this is going to boost the power of Collector a little bit as well. In a minute, we'll look at the decks and other synergies, but I think Collector is going to get a bit of a boost here. And there's another card which I think is going to get a bigger boost than anyone, and that is Black Swan. So, let me circle back to that in approximately 5 seconds. There's lots of strong synergies, including Lockjaw, Marvel Boy, Kazar, Dazzler, and Black Swan. So yeah, when Black Swan came out as a Season Pass card, we were expecting that she was going to be good, and she just kind of came out like a whoopee cushion that's been rotting on the floor for many years, you know. That's a very strange analogy. Not sure why I said it. I barely even understand what I mean. But she came out and she just didn't really work. Because if you are playing Black Swan in a zoo style deck with 1-cost cards, the problem is you're just playing those 1-cost cards out on turn 1 or turn 2. You're playing them out in the early game, or you're playing them out to fill in your gaps in energy. So you're not really getting to turn 3 having not played any 1-cost cards and then just flooding the board on 3. Or, you know, even if you are holding off until turn 5, which is, you know, a strategy with Black Swan, and dumping on the final turn, it's still not really doing much, because what, are you holding all of your 1-cost cards in order to surprise it at the end of the game? That's only really benefiting things like Hitmonkey, right? So you were just organically playing out your 1-cost cards on turn 1. The thing with Hawkeye Kate Bishop is that you don't have those 1-cost cards at the start of the game in order to play them out on the first turns. So Hawkeye Kate Bishop is going to be the biggest boost that Black Swan has ever had, and I think that will actually be decent. You play Hawkeye on 2, you've played something on 1 already, maybe it's Martyr, coping. Then you play Black Swan on 3, then you have your 4-cost card like Kazar, and you get 2 arrows out. It's good stuff, guys. Or even if you just play Black Swan later, and you get that extra boost, because these are generated cards. I think it's going to be sick. And there's lots of favourable locations for the arrows. You've got things like, hang on, let me check the pronunciation of this. Panopticon. Panopticon? I don't know, the new one from, was it Marvel's? Cards that don't start in your deck get +2 power here. Really good. Nidavellir can be difficult to fill up if you haven't got that style of deck. Muir Island, Mojo World, Lake Hellas, all of these things, really, really cool. I've put Bar Sinister there. That's because, of course, the Acid Arrow, you're going to be able to shoot stuff and fill that really early if they don't get there with White Widow first, which, of course, people bloody love doing these days. Anyway, the cons. The random arrows won't always feel beneficial, especially the things like the Hawkeye and the Ant-Man arrow. You might not always be able to capitalise on their effects, and so they won't always feel particularly good. You don't have to play them, of course. The arrows are weak to Killmonger, and you might not always be able to capitalise on the arrows. That really, I don't know why I've even put that in there. That is pretty much the same as the first con that I said. Maybe I just felt like I needed to have 3 cons because I'm not seeing that many downsides to Kate Bishop. But there are some counters at the very least. So Cosmo, obviously, going to block all of the on-reveals. There's several on-reveals, not only with Hawkeye Kate Bishop herself, but also the arrows. So Cosmo can certainly shut you down a little bit. Killmonger is a good counter. Not only does he counter the Acid Arrow by destroying it and clearing up their side and taking away the minus power, but obviously kills your arrows, so that's going to be dirt. Maybe at the start of this season, Destroy picks up a little bit more. It's bloody well possible, because I think Hawkeye Kate Bishop and Marvel Boy in tandem are going to give a pretty significant boost to Zoo decks. We just had Gilgamesh as well, who was the initial burst. I think Zoo decks really are going to become quite popular, so Killmonger in return is going to become popular as well. And maybe Ronan the Accuser. As we've seen, Kate Bishop adds multiple cards to your hand. Cards like Agent Coulson, hotter than he's ever been at the moment. So these are all cards that are plumping your hand, and so maybe Ronan gains a bit of power. And by the way, shout out to this Pixel variant, is sick, to be honest. I would probably buy that. I'm quite a big Ronan the Accuser fan in general, not necessarily in Snap. Right, moving on to some key synergies and some deck ideas for you. We've spoken a little bit about the synergies, but let's talk about some more. So Marvel Boy. Marvel Boy is the other brand new card that's releasing alongside Hawkeye Kate Bishop, and he gives +1 power to 3 of your 1-cost cards at the end of each turn. This is going to be a massive boost to Zoo, as we've spoken about, and is going to just supercharge all of your 1-cost cards. Generally speaking, if you're playing Marvel Boy, you do want to have 1-cost cards in your deck, especially Squirrel Girl, because that's the quickest way to get the best benefit out of Marvel Boy. However, if you haven't filled out your curve as well, then maybe you'll be able to play the arrows, and maybe the arrows would get boosted by Marvel Boy. Kyra. As I said, Killmonger's going to become very hot soon. Kyra is going to stop Killmonger from destroying them. The benefit of that, particularly with Hawkeye, is that generally she's quite a high tempo card. She's creating quite valuable cards, and you're going to be able to fill in your curve really nicely. So you may well have initiative in order for them to not be able to kill them before Kyra has come down. Black Swan, I spoke about it, so I'm not going to say it again. Kazar, these are obviously 1-cost cards. They obviously get boosted by Kazar. The arrows didn't start in your deck. That means that Mockingbird can come out to play as well. And finally, Sasquatch. Maybe there's like a Sasquatch hit monkey thing, and maybe that's one of the things that we'll talk about with one of these decks. So, first and foremost, we've spoken about Zoo a few times. The Young Avengers Zoo deck. This does indeed have some of the cards that we've been discussing. So, Kyra, Black Swan, Marvel Boy, Hawkeye. It's also got lots of 1-cost cards. So we've got Maria in here. We've got Ant-Man, Squirrel Girl, and Martyr. I think Martyr is going to be great in this. I know that people aren't crazy about Martyr, but for me, I love her. Imagine getting Martyr. Maybe you've got Ant-Man out on turn 1. Turn 2, you do Martyr and Maria. Turn 3, you get Marvel Boy. That is already growing masses of power. If you can then get the Hawkeye Kate Bishop out, get those extra 1-cost cards, then you play Black Swan, and then you can get some free extra dots of power across the bottom. You know, let's consider the Pym arrow is 4 power, the grapple arrow is 3. That's a potential free 7 power on the final turn if you played Black Swan the turn before. Whack that down with Blue Marvel, you're absolutely exploding. I think Zoo is going to be huge, and I think this deck could be really fun. I'm actually going to be playing this deck. I think this looks super, super fun. Now, vaguely similarly, in a Zoo-ish style, we've got the Final Dump deck. This is almost like a pseudo Zoo bounce style deck. We've only got 1 bounce card in here, which is Beast. But other than that, we have got our Black Swan trick comes out again, guys. Our other 1-cost cards includes Rocket Raccoon, Spider-Ham, Iceman. All cards that you generally want to bounce or that you get good value from. We've got Sasquatch in here. We've got Mockingbird because we've got Mysterio. So Mockingbird's going to be heavily discounted here alongside the arrows. And the idea of this deck is that you just have a final turn dump. Your turn 5 could look like Beast and Black Swan. And then your final turn could look like something like Mockingbird, Hit Monkey, 3 or 4 1-cost cards, and maybe something else thrown in there as well, because you're going to still have some energy left over. I don't know, guys. It's getting pretty spicy, isn't it? But then finally, I think this is probably my favourite deck out of these ones. As I said, I'm a massive Shield fan, so I'm always going to be playing the Shield stuff. This is called Tactical Forces. You got Snow Guard, Maria Hill, Hawkeye Kate Bishop, and Agent Coulson as your card generators. We've also got Loki in here as not really a backup plan. Often it's going to be your primary plan, but something that you can do. And again, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop into Loki is going to feel great, because it always feels great to really rejuice up your hand before you play your Loki. So you're going to be having the ability to stuff your hand with lots of stuff. We've got, of course, Quinjet in here. We have got Collector in here, because I think that's going to be interesting. And you might look at this deck and see a sort of a sore thumb that is sticking out, and that is Arrow. I don't know, guys. I think Arrow is interesting. I think if you've got all of these cheap cards and all these cheap options, you really can disrupt them nicely on the penultimate turn with Arrow, and then with maybe the rest of your generated cards, you do just random and unpredictable stuff. Hawkeye Kate Bishop is going to definitely add a level of unpredictability to your playstyle and to your deck. So it's going to be interesting and it's going to be cool. So that's the decks for you guys. What do you think of them? Let me know in the comments below. But, you know, with the season pass cards, it's always a bit of a weird one, because you know, you're not buying them with tokens necessarily straight away. So if you're saying snap or pass, you're sort of saying, should you buy the season pass? Well, I generally always buy the season passes. I generally do think that Hawkeye Kate Bishop is a snap. If you've seen my season preview video, you will have seen that I gave her 4.5 stars. I think she's fantastic. She plays into my personal favourite archetype, but even outside of that, she is going to be one of the best general use cards in the game, in my humble opinion. Those arrows give you masses of flexibility, a little bit of unpredictability, and the playstyle that I just really enjoy, of thinking on your feet and finding new ways to win, new lines, new winning lines. So what do you think of Kate Bishop? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.